evening, wrestling fans, and welcome to the Wrestle Talk Podcast. For the next 2 hours, we will bring you the latest pro wrestling news, in-depth analysis of all your favorite promotions from across the globe, and much, much more. We will also bring you exclusive interviews with the greatest professional wrestling personalities on the local, national, and international levels. If you want to follow the Wrestle Talk Podcast, check us out online at www.wrestletalkpodcast.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And now, it's time for the reigning, defending, undisputed leader in pro wrestling podcasts, the Wrestle Talk Podcast.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the one and only Wrestle Talk Podcast. My name is Chris Rodell. I am the original Road Dog, Big Sexy, here with you for a couple of hours. We got great wrestling talk and all kinds of great information going to be coming at you. Make sure you hit us up at WrestleTalkPodcast.com. It'll link us to our new Facebook page. Had a little bit of a snafu. So get logged into that new Facebook page. But go to that Wrestle Talk Podcast website. You'll check out past shows. It'll link us to our YouTube, our Twitter, Instagram, all of that good information. Tonight, we got a big show headed for you. Tonight, we got the widow of the one and only, one of the best wrestlers ever to be in this business. The widow of the great Bruiser Brody, Barbara Goodish, is going to be here. We're going to be talking about that big SICW Fan Fest that's going to be taking place in May. Like I said, leave us a comment. We'll get to those comments as we go. And right now I'm going to thank you, Darla. I'm a bit, if anyone knows me, I'm a big blues fan. I'm going to bring in someone who is a fan of the Colorado Avalanche and maybe even a little bit of the Seattle Kraken. He is the St. Louis legend himself, our media director at Dynamo Pro Wrestling, the one and only Mr. Luke Roberts. Luke?
Hey, Chris, you know something? You were talking about a book. Could you mean maybe this book?
That book, yes.
Which you can find on all your great outlets to purchase. And tonight, we're going to have Barbara Goodish on the program at 8:15. It's always a great time to be able to hang out with Barbara Goodish. We're also talking with Darla Staggs, another one of the queens of wrestling. Got to meet both of them at the CAC. And I got to tell you, Chris, it's going to be a great program here tonight on the Wrestle Talk Podcast.
We got a lot to talk about. We're still trudging that road to WrestleMania. We got AEW Revolution this weekend. We got the big SICW Fan Fest. We've got all kinds of great local shows going on. So how you been, man? You've been hanging?
Been going 100 miles an hour. Had an opportunity to spend some time in the last couple weeks out of town, getting ready to make a big journey up to Chi-Town here in the next few weeks. Got some big trips coming up. And a big trip that's going to be coming up here in the next few weeks. I say a few weeks, a couple more months. It's when Big Sexy and Luke Roberts are going to be making our way up to the National Wrestling Hall of Fame in July. I mean, again, there's going to be a lot of great stuff here. And then before you know it, the CAC reunion. We got a lot of great things to talk about here. And you know something, Chris?
It doesn't stop because I was on vacation last week from work. So these last 2 days have exhausted me because you know how you get back from a vacation, you have to catch up on your email and see where everything is and see what's changed. I'll come talk a little bit about one of my favorite things in the world of professional wrestling for 2 hours.
Well, you know something, Chris, you're talking about things that got you flustered. I was wondering if you were going to talk about, and I know it's going to get me some flack here, but I was wondering if you were going to talk about the ever shrinking Blues roster as of late.
And it's going to be more. It's probably going to be even more ever shrinking because of the Blues are just not in the position this year to make a run for it. So you got to get some mass. You got to acquire some asset values for those that you're not quite sure you're going to have back next year. So
that is true.
It is what it is, and I have several fans of the Colorado Avalanche. As you know, my good friend Scott is a big Avalanche fan, and winning the Stanley Cup last year was probably his peak moment. So
I agree with you, Chris. I mean, again, it's one of those where you got a lot of great teams that are still vying for those those playoff spots that are going to be coming up soon. And I mean, when you sit there and you look at it, I mean, a lot of things are going on in pro hockey. You got a lot of things going on in pro baseball. Spring training camps are starting up. I mean, again, it was almost
we got in St. Louis. We got St. Louis SC, the brand new soccer team starting up. We got the St. Louis Battlehawks, who are 2-0 for the XFL.
2-0.
And two comeback wins at that.
That is true. That is true. And I'm going to tell you right now, Chris, I could very easily see from what I've seen here, if the Battlehawks could get something underneath themselves in the first half, they could be a team, honestly, in my opinion, that could run the table this year. I really think that if they could finally get something underneath them to where they could get that first half to go along with like that last 5 to 10 minutes, they'd be an awesome team. And again, thank you, Jeffrey, for sharing your love of the St. Louis Blues and the Blue Note. I mean, Chris has got a lot of jerseys. And again, Chris is kind of getting me to follow the Blues a little more, but this season, I don't know how much.
Yeah, I think maybe we'll retread that. We'll retread that next year. How's that sound?
We'll revisit that next year. But one thing we definitely need to visit now is the idea. Make sure to send those stars here to the Wrestle Talk podcast. If you support us, we can have a lot of great giveaways. We can have a lot of great guests on the program. We can make improvements to the show. Make sure to send all those great stars to us. And Chris,
and like I said,
we got a lot of great viewers already in here too.
Right. Yeah. Like I said earlier, make sure you head over to WrestleTalkPodcast.com. It's going to have all of our links to our YouTube, to our new Facebook page, our Instagram, and Twitter. Are the great ways we can see the Wrestle Talk podcast and come on and just come on in. We don't bite usually. So,
like I said, right now it's one of those, we're going to have a great opportunity to have a lot of great people join the Wrestle Talk podcast. Share it with your friends and family. Like I said, we've got a brand new Facebook account. Make it a point to share it out. Got a lot of great people here. I know that I've sent it out to several people already tonight, and we're going to get those numbers up. Like I said, we can't do this without the support of the viewers of the Wrestle Talk podcast, the Wrestle Talk podcast family, the FWWC, and of course, we can't do things without our great sponsors. So let's go ahead and take a minute before we get rolling here tonight with High Spots. Let's go ahead and thank those great sponsors, without who this program does not go the way that it does each and every week. We have Royal Mills Transportation, with the one and only Dewan Mills, Rathbun Engraving, home of those great Wrestle Talk podcast mugs, available for $20 for purchase. Make it a point to communicate with the Wrestle Talk podcast for more info. Noble Men's Barber Lounge, Kansas City, the Kincaid Arcade at the Oak Park Mall. Our good friends over at Interstate 70 Sports Media, Little Popeye Designs, home of that great Wrestle Talk podcast Tumblr, and the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group, all great sponsors of the Wrestle Talk podcast. And while we're at it, I want to give a shout out to our good friend Herb Simmons, who's here on the show tonight. And like I said, Herb has got a great event coming up Saturday, May 13th at the Aviator Hotel. If you got an opportunity later tonight, we're going to have Barbara Goodish on here. And I mean, the list of names just keeps growing by the day. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's going to be a hot ticket here in the St. Louis area. But Chris, I got to tell you right now, we've now come to that point in the show. A point that our good friend Justin Wade has said is one of the high points of the show each and every week. And that is, we're going to go
Justin ahead. And J-Dub is buried under some snow up there in the Pacific Northwest. So
yeah, we got to send a shout out to all of our great friends in the Pacific Northwest. Want to give a shout out to our good friend Jeff Manning, one of the key people behind Don't Try This in the Las Vegas area as well. Last time I heard anything, I heard 7, 8, 9 inches of snow. A lot of people without power. Weather is just downright horrible. I don't know what it is, Chris, but this year, thankfully, our area of the Midwest really hasn't gotten hit too badly. We've had a couple bad days, but it seems like the Pacific Northwest and the northern Midwest has just been blasted time after time this year.
But knock on some wood here.
Well, I throw one thing at you here, and that is tomorrow, as crazy as it sounds, is the first day of March. And besides Revolution being this weekend, we are 1 month away from night one of WrestleMania, if you can believe that. I mean, it's crazy.
It's a busy time in the wrestling world. So
that is true.
We got the taco. Dynamo Pro is going to be a part of the Tacos and Margarita Festival. All kinds of great shows. There's some great shows in the KC area. I saw CSW is going to have a show here coming up soon again. just all up and down there. We got WDWA up in the West Virginia area. So
that's true. And like I said, a lot of great promotions all across the Midwest, all across this country. But you know something, Chris? We need to bring forth something we do each and every week right here on the Wrestle Talk podcast, and that is we need to pay homage to the greatest country in the world. That is the good old United States of America. So, Chris, if you'd be so kind to make sure we get our flag out, and we're going to go ahead and pay homage to the greatest country in the world. So this time, we're going to remove our hats, place our hands over our heart, and pay homage to the greatest country in the world. And just to let you know, as Aaron Wallace comes in, make sure you're ready because it's time for the national anthem. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Roseanne Barr bringing us in by paying homage
could it get any worse?
Well, you know, Chris, I mean, again, we make it a point that we pay homage to the United States of America each and every week. We also want to give a shout out to all of our great men and women in uniform, both in the military as well as our police personnel, our medical, our EMTs, our first responders, our firemen. You name it, anybody who goes out and risks their life each and every day for not only for the United States, but also for all of our local independent communities as well. Want to give a shout out to all the first responders who help make our country what it is today. Now, Chris.
Well, before we jump to high spots, we have another co-host that popped in. He was running a little behind technical issues, so we got I'm going to bring in the newest member of the Wrestle Talk podcast family, the Alpha.
Hi guys, how's it going?
Good.
Hi,
how's it
Alpha.
going?
How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. It's been a while, and I'm ready to talk wrestling.
And you're probably not dealing with the snow that Justin's dealing with up in Seattle.
Unfortunately, no. I had some family stuff I had to take care of, but family first. So.
Yes,
well,
yeah,
that's true.
Right?
That is true. But of course, you're here at a perfect time because you know what? You're not gonna miss the biggest part of the show, ladies and gentlemen. I gotta get to the right thing. Let's see. It's our segment we do every week. It's the Wrestle Talk podcast high spot segment.
Mic check. Yeah. All right. Wrestle Talk podcast. DJ Money. Yeah. Let's go. Welcome to High Spots, where we pop news like flare chops. We dog shop, coming through the screens of the laptop. And non-stop like a runner's pieces of blacktop. We hit hard like chair shots and backdrops. Like a plug flash, look like a barely fly. Now that's hard. We up to speed while they stay slow. Wrestle Talk podcast, now they know. We about to start the show.
I don't know what exactly was that, Alpha. Was that a dance or what were you? I was concerned.
I think I was snapping out of my psychosis.
You know something, guys? I'm going to tell you right now. Got to give a shout out to our good friend DJ Money who put together that great High Spots introduction. And again, if you need anything when it comes to music, it comes to graphic design, make it a point to check out DJ Money online. For more information, you can get a hold of anybody from the Wrestle Talk podcast. You know something, guys? I want to throw this out here real quick. And I know Alpha had an opportunity to catch up real quick. It was real cool. And Chris, you brought this up, and I caught it at the right time. The idea of where we talk about this guy right here, the grappler, on Tuesday.
Yes.
On Sunday, he's mentioned on the A&E.
Jake the Snake, because apparently when Jake was wrestling the grappler and he had him in a front face lock, and apparently they went to do a move and he accidentally fell and grappler went forward and the crowd just absolutely popped and so he was like, okay, I could do this. Now I gotta find a badass name for it. It was like this was at the time back in the day. Alpha probably wouldn't remember this. Luke might remember it. I kind of remember it. There was this
Try me.
chemical. There was this chemical that was out there called DDT that was dangerous, and this is like early like 80s. I barely remember it, but that's what he said he was going to name it after. And I could be like dating my. It could be even earlier than that, but
I think dating it is good if it's a historical significance.
right. And I mean, people have called it the most significant move and one of the best finishing moves in professional wrestling. So
I agree. I only wish it wasn't so watered down because there's so many variations.
Right.
Because isn't there something so fantastic about a clean Jake the Snake Roberts DDT? Like when it did in the match, and you were just like, oh, just because it's such a snappy move that you'd think that it's like, well, now we've had so many variations that it's not even transitional anymore.
And there was a time that the DDT when he DDT'd Ricky Steamboat on the floor, and everyone was like, and I still cringe at that. I think Ricky Steamboat even cringes at that at times too, because
I'm surprised he didn't like crack his skull with that. That was just an unreal move. And you know something, guys? And again, I don't want to take anything away from Jake the Snake and the DDT, but to me, well, I love Jake the Snake's DDT because it was a move that you knew you weren't going to kick out of. Another man I thought that was that way was Raven. You didn't see too many people kick out of what he called the even flow DDT in WCW. You didn't see people kicking out of it. And I mean, again, that was the way I grew up on pro wrestling. And just to let you know, for those that want to know what it stood for, DDT, and again, bear with me, Chris, it's only got about 5 syllables here. Dichlorotrichloroethane.
okay,
There's lots of letters in it, and again, it's a very potent pesticide. But when it comes to being inside the squared circle, the DDT was a very dangerous maneuver. And guys, we talk about that, and that's what we bring to the Wrestle Talk podcast each and every week. And right now, we're going to bring you the high spot segment. Chris, last week, I'm not going to fib to you. I think the Maestro did something to our sounder. I think Maestro did something. I don't even want to know what happened last week with the board. But I think tonight we've got.
I'm scared. I'm scared to press this button to kick off the randomizer. I mean,
let's see what happens here. We're going to go ahead and throw the randomizer up here and see what we're going to get for our first question here tonight. And thank you, Darla. Again, we totally forgot about that. Ricky the Steamboat's birthday is today. I believe he's 60. I want to say 69, but I'm going to double check that real quick. Let's go ahead and get the randomizer going here and get our first question brought up on the screen.
I don't know who changed the noise, but I like it.
Oh yeah, we just changed it. Sorry.
So for those unfamiliar, that's actually from Smash Bros. Melee. At least I think it is.
All right, so AEW Revolution is this Sunday. Saturday, I think.
Sunday.
Here.
AEW Revolution.
I think it's Sunday. Are there any matches that you think will rival the MJF versus Bryan Danielson 60-minute Iron Man match? Luke.
You know, the one that I'm really looking forward to, there's a lot of great matches on the Revolution pay-per-view if you get an opportunity to purchase it. I know you're not going to be disappointed, but I'm going to tell you right now, the match that has the most intrigue to me is the Texas Death Match between Hangman Adam Page and Jon Moxley. To me, this matchup, are we finally going to see the reemergence of Hangman Adam Page? He was right on the cusp of being a key component of AEW, and then he almost got pushed back into the background. To me, I think this is a must-win for Adam Page. If he does not win, I don't know where you go after this matchup. This is a must-win for Hangman Adam Page this coming weekend. I'm going to tell you right now, that's going to be the match that I'm going to be the most intrigued in. Alpha, your thoughts?
Well, for starters, no offense to was it Evil Uno that he faced on recently? I can't remember, for his 100th match. How fitting would it have been to have made his 100th match against Adam Page? Like just to throw the wrench in there so that more people could kind of debate, well, are they really going to give it to Moxley or not? But that's just me wanting to, make make internet smarks who want to think they know what the outcome is a little more uneasy. But of course I'm gonna piss them off. I think the trios match, because it's House of Black, correct? They're with Aleister Black and Brody King and Buddy Murphy.
I believe so. Yes.
I think I want that match a lot, just because if this is the opportunity that they finally put the belt on the House of Black, that'd be awesome. Because I've been waiting for them, and it's like I think the Elite validated the trios titles, and they're still validating the trios titles. Like I think they had that match with what was it? AR Martin? I can't remember. It was just
Fox.
recently, but yeah, Fox. Excuse me. I'm thinking of Dante Martin. I'm getting my names mixed up. But they've been doing a good job of putting the trios belts on the map, and it's like, people have been wondering about the House of Black. I personally have been wondering, and I think they could use a trios push right now, something to kind of solidify them as a major threat, and then maybe we could see something down the line, maybe like an Aleister Atlantic title reign or something, just something to that at least to answer the question. I'm really excited for the trios match, just because there's potential that the House of Black could win, and I really like the House of Black. So.
And the House of Black since they've come into the AEW, they really haven't, they've done stuff, but they just haven't they need the big push, They
haven't fitted it together. I agree,
right?
Because because they got the tools too. Because I saw Brody King, and he looks great. Like especially in these hardcore matches, having a big guy like a Haas dude who also can do the hardcore stuff. I mean, it helps his image. I mean, Buddy Murphy, freaking shredded like an Adrian Adonis, just gorgeous looking dude, right? And then just amazing athleticism, and then Malachi's a good mouthpiece. Like, is he a little weird? Maybe, but I mean, that black mass kick is everything. So I'm not refuting it. They just, if they could get this win, this might give them a push. That's all they need. That's all I'm thinking.
All right.
Sorry, there was a ambulance that decided wanted to be loud and drive by my by my apartment. So,
are there any matches you're looking forward to, Chris? Not to cut you off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to the whole show. I mean, I'm not really into nothing. Really has got my attention besides maybe.
We got the ladder match, FTW, Trios title, All Atlantic. I think TBS is the only that they don't really.
Right. Yeah. It's going to be one of those. It's going to be a solid show. It's going to be no matter what, it's going to be a solid show from top to bottom. So
true. But I think I want to ask both of y'all, do you think there might be something notable? Like, obviously we're going to have some good wrestling, but do you think AEW might strike something like that might, I don't know, just like spur the moment, wrestling is wrestling. Sometimes a match clicks a little harder than it should. You think anything might stand out?
Well, something, Alpha, I look at it this way. I mean, again, we got a lot of things going on in the world of AEW. I don't foresee anything major kind of appearing because of such things as the relaunch of ROH, at least on Honor Club. I mean, I think right now Tony Khan's got a lot of things going on here in the world of professional wrestling. And while it would be awesome to see something new happen, I just don't see Revolution being the event. I really could see that. I believe the next event is Double or Nothing. I want to say
probably,
if that's the case, then I could very much see that appearing. But gentlemen, I want to go ahead real quick here. We're going to change gears for just a minute. I know we were talking earlier about our good friend Justin Wade and all of the weather issues out on the West Coast. Chris, can you go ahead real quick here?
It's bad.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you hear the breaking news sounder here on the Wrestle Talk podcast, for those that are here in the Midwest, like Chris and I were talking about earlier about how some of the things kind of avoided us this year. Chris, I don't know if you can pull up the image or not. I just sent it to you here a few minutes ago when I got the information. Jake just came across my news feed. I don't know if you can pull it up or not.
Just give me 1 second here.
He's going to go ahead and pull it up. As you notice right here, this is in the hometown of Superman, that being Metropolis, Illinois. And that is not a Photoshop picture from my understanding. The actual head of the Superman statue actually came off of the Superman statue. And right now,
how did that come off? Maybe it was
Was it
during
just
that.
that strong?
Maybe it was during that windstorm we had yesterday. Because yesterday the winds were.
They were rough, but like I said, right now, I mean, again, we're keeping an eye out for all of our great friends here on the Wrestle Talk podcast family. And gentlemen, I'm going to tell you right now, we're getting ready to move to our next high spots question. But I'm going to tell you right now, I've just also, and again, we're not going to hit the sounder again because we've already taken care of it. I've just received a message from the CEO that I need to have a conversation. We're going to have the FWWC here in just a few minutes. He has something that he needs to share with me regarding tonight's FWWC segment. So at this point, gentlemen, we're going to go ahead. I'm going to step away here for just a minute to go ahead and get that up and running and make sure we get the CEO everything that he needs for his segment this evening. So, gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and step aside. Let's go ahead and hit the randomizer for our next question here on the High Spot segment.
Let's see what it is. I hope it's one of the questions I wrote. I know I meant. Oh, let's see. All right, so we got on Raw last night. We saw Brock Lesnar accept Omos's challenge for a match at WrestleMania. What are your thoughts? I want to pass it over to you because I honestly kind of have to form my thoughts because I didn't catch it.
Yeah. Not this past Monday, but the Monday before, MVP threw out the challenge to Brock Lesnar to take on Omos at WrestleMania. MVP invited Brock Lesnar to the MVP lounge. Brock Lesnar beat him out there. And MVP came out and they talked, and apparently we're gonna get Brock Lesnar and Omos at WrestleMania, and I am not 100% sure how to feel about that because I just don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I can see why, because I'm having a little trouble trying to make heads or tails of it also. Like, just because, I'll be honest, I was into the idea of seeing where the Fiend was going to go with Brock after that DQ. Like, I was thinking maybe that Bray could have spun it into the whole you played coward type thing. Like, if anybody could be cerebral about a DQ finish like that, it's Bray. And I think it could have worked for Brock because then it could have been this whole you were terrified of me thing. You know, monster for a monster. It's weird.
And
they could have done something with it.
And now we're gonna get now on the flip side, we're gonna get Bray Wyatt versus Bobby Lashley, and we've got the weird head games going on with Bray Wyatt again with the Firefly Funhouse, which is not. I'm on record saying that's not one of my favorite like gimmicks and stuff like that. I'm not a big fan of it.
It doesn't feel like enough. Like that's the thing. I like this gimmick, but it doesn't. I'm happy that we're getting it. Like, I'm like, okay, I could do Bobby versus Bray, but it definitely feels kind of like, okay, but this is instead of something. And when it's instead of something, then you don't feel like it's as important, you know? Because then
it's kind of like it's kind of like that DQ finish was like doesn't bring closure to that whole story between Brock and Bobby. So
it doesn't, and then it's. And it sucks too because it's like I mean I'm sure they could have done something with Omos, like if they were actually bored and didn't have anything to do with Lesnar, they could actually do something with that. Maybe they need a month, right? But it's the fact that they were doing something with Lesnar and they were doing something really good with Lesnar too, because everybody liked this feud with. I mean, I like the feud with Bobby, so to see them kind of go from okay, we have an idea, and then you're thinking okay, WWE, you take the wheel, to them switching to Omos. I don't know if this was Brock's decision. I don't know if this was WWE's decision. I don't know what's going on. Maybe he's just that cool. Maybe like behind the scenes, Brock is actually just trying to give Omos a payday.
And honestly, Brock Lesnar's been. I mean, being on his own, he's been more himself. Coming out as Cowboy Brock, I mean, that's so different than what he did earlier in his career, where he was the the big tough wrestler guy, true wrestler guy. Didn't have to talk much, but apparently he's got a really great like personality and like can be really funny at times. So, and WrestleMania is it's still gonna be a big show. It's 2 nights. There's actually something else I wanted to bring up about WrestleMania, and then we'll hit your question. I'm not going to do the randomizer because while we're talking about WrestleMania, apparently Hunter has said there's going to be fewer matches each night at WrestleMania. Is this a good idea or a bad idea? I've heard anywhere from 6 to 7 matches both nights because he wants to give the matches to feel special and to give them time. So,
Do you want me to?
You start on this one.
I think this is okay, and it's only because I want my wrestling to slow down in bits, or at least I think this is Triple H being preemptive because he knows that the product or that people enjoy what the product is so far, which is, the Usos, the Bloodline right now. And they've been dedicating a lot of time to just letting matches play out like they need to because a hot crowd will deliver everything you need. And because the people involved are that good at that wrestling. So we might be seeing a change in garb where workhorses are getting 25 minutes to do what they want to do, and I'm cool with that. US title scene's looking good for me. I could talk about that all night. I need to get a chance to talk about the Elimination Chamber, but that's besides the point.
Elimination Chamber was pretty awesome. I mean,
I loved it.
Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns was.
They were chanting "F you Roman" before the match started, dog. Like they
were chanting
so rabid, dude. They were
chanting
this guy.
They were chanting it on the pre-show.
So much melodrama, man. It was perfect.
And then when he pinned Sami at the end. Silence.
So satisfying. I love this in wrestling. But to bring it back to the question,
I was disappointed.
Yes, I think this is a good thing. Sorry.
I was disappointed in the finish, though. I thought it kind of ended kind of flat, but I understood where it went. So
I think it was fine. But anyways, but I can see how you could think that. But considering that we already have WrestleMania to 2 nights, that's still a pretty decent amount of time. Like, even if they go the minimum and do 6 matches a card, but these are the longest dedicated, most time you could give to a match to make it 6 hours or whatever timeline you need for it. But that's still 12 matches for Mania. And then the good part is, you get more time for matches. Like, I know we as fans like to acknowledge that there's a bunch of titles, but if they defend them within the time frame, and if they choose the ones that they've been building up the best ways, like the current ones that are important that you want to see people feud for, then I think it's fine. Because I would, quality over quantity. I would rather have like the US title and Intercontinental title get, the time they need because I like those belts. Anyway,
yeah, and I think it's going to harken back. It's going to probably harken you back to the NXT Takeover days where they did like 5 matches on a show, but every match was like 30 minutes long and meant something. And I think this WrestleMania you're going to see. I'm betting you see maybe Brood Edge versus Demon Finn, possibly in Hell in the Cell.
That would be interesting.
You're probably going to see Usos, and apparently after last night, you're going to see probably a 6-woman tag match with Becky, Lita, and Trish versus Damage Control.
Oh gosh, if they're doing a 3-person tag, that's going to be a long match. Like, that's going to just be just everybody trying to get their spots in with 6 people.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that Lita missed a little bit of a step, but it was a pretty cool. It was almost like a Mania moment last night when Lita and Becky won the titles.
It's definitely, it feels like Car Crash Raw, and I mean that in the best way possible, where we get something cool like Lita and Becky teaming up for the one night where they win the belts. Because we got a month to fill. Like, realistically, we don't have any other pay-per-views to go off of, and I'm sure they can figure out somebody to jump in to take the tag titles, at the very least pre-show. But we have an opportunity to do that, and I mean, a shake-up every now and then just to get people crowding. I mean, some people recognize Lita, definitely popped the crowd. I mean, I don't see it as a bad thing.
I don't see it as a bad thing either. And speaking of last night's Raw, we said it was kind of a car crash Raw. Cody Rhodes versus Chad Gable. That was a match I completely enjoyed that match. I don't know, those two must have some kind of chemistry or something, but I don't know. Cody Rhodes and Chad Gable was a pretty darn good match last night.
This just feeds into my belief that Chad Gable has so much potential as a single star, and I don't want him to break away from Otis just yet. This is the alpha's requirement going into 2023 out of wrestling. I want more teams working independently of each other without breaking up. Like, I know that's kind of weird and different for wrestling, but I also kind of love the idea about it, just because Montez Ford winning the US title and, you know, challenging his own tag team partner. It's cool to me. So I want more out of that, but Chad Gable is such a fantastic wrestler. Like, he has the Kurt Angle in him, but he's got the you know, the dweebish snob vibes that I like, that he's willing to, you know, practice and be a goofball with his character, because then when the time comes where he's got to harness that energy, he can, instead of being, you know, goofy and condescending, he's going to be more intense, and then he can channel that and become the wrestling machine, like, you know, future star that we want him to be. But oh my god, that match was so good. Like, I loved it. Like, I loved it so much.
you're all giddy and all that. You're like, oh, you were just.
Yeah, I don't get to talk about wrestling enough. I feel like I'm bothering people if they're not wrestling fans. So getting an hour a day, at least on a Tuesday, helps me.
I'm in another group chat with a bunch of wrestling fans, and there's this one person that's just really into Chad Gable, and he's so happy he's so happy to what Chad did last night. So in a losing effort, but he's
good at losing, though. Like, I mean that in the best way. He makes losing look good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We were talking about Sami Zayn before, and apparently DDP stated that Sami Zayn is a main event performer in the WWE. Do you agree with this? I mean, I agree with it. He's not a long-term main event. And you know what I mean? He's not one of those guys that he's not going to hold the belt for 900 plus days like Roman Reigns does. He's probably not the face of the company. But
I think he could. Oh, you were saying?
I was going to say, but I think he could carry the title for 6 months or so. I mean, as what they like to call a transition champion, if you're like trying to build somebody else up. So, I mean, that's just me. So,
I mean, if I can comment on it, because that match was really good. Like, and it was a main event level match. But I guess I'm having trouble distinguishing what is genuinely Sammy's aura, which I like. You know, he does have that aura. He gets the crowd to react. He did it in Texas. But it's also just because he was in his home country. So, and it's, you know, it's Canada. Those people are the most audible wrestling fans. Even if that's the thing, even if nobody Canadian is on the show, they're still audible. They don't care. So you throw their own person in there.
The Elimination Chamber crowd was amazing. They were amazing the whole night. They were into it, and I mean, imagine
they played their role as the audience.
Just imagine if they would have pulled the swerve off and Sammy won the belt.
Oh my god, people would have been crying, dude. I swear. That's how genuine those people were into Sammy winning. He had to get you at least once. It was so perfect. He knew how to. They played it perfectly, and I hate that they did, because now they got to do even better than that. But I think I want it to be that Sami Zayn is a really good main eventer. It's not that I don't think he is, at least at this point in time, and I'm probably like contradicting myself, but it's that I want to see what happens going down the road, I guess.
And they didn't jump right back into the whole, oh, Kevin Owens is back on Sami Zayn, you know, they're back together. There's still some question there, and that's because of what Kevin Owens' character is. He's like real, and like he's like, I've been down this road before. I've done this to people before. I don't trust you. I still think you have loyalty to Jay. And you kind of don't know what's going on with the Usos either. So that whole storyline is just kind of...
It's still intertwining. It's still moving.
And I don't know what they're going to do. I think it's going to end up being Sammy and Kevin versus the Usos at Mania. But
I'm okay with that, honestly. That's just me, because I don't know why people feel like the tag titles are secondary. I'm like, they're the main event of the tag scene. Like, I know that it's like you got to share the card with one person, but still, like, tag titles are important. So I don't know. Especially at the end of this feud, they're gonna feel like $1 million.
Right. And you know, if they have to go away for a few months to kind of, you know, build up their return. But I think this year's WrestleMania is going to be really good. Even if it is 6 or 7 matches, you might get a pre-show match in there to warm up the crowd. But right. Triple H also said he's not thinking about doing any battle royals this year. So,
that'll be good.
And that usually Mania is they're trying to get everyone on there so everyone can get a Mania payday. Hunter doesn't work. I don't think Hunter works that way. There is talk that this whole Brock versus Omos match has got Vince's fingerprints all over it. So
really, I don't know why I didn't equate that. That makes sense actually. That he's like, just do them, just the 2 big men.
As Biggie would say, two big men slapping meat.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know.
Vince likes big sweaty men, and we all know it. But it's okay because so do I.
Wow. Okay. We're gonna jump. I wasn't expecting that.
What is this podcast? I'm so sorry.
What is this podcast? So there's a rumor going around that Kenny Omega's contract is set to expire. It was set to expire at the end of January, but they added some time back onto it because of his injuries. And with any contract like that, they can add time onto it. So I don't think Kenny Omega's mad at that because,
I mean, I can't imagine he is, especially given the spot he's in right now in AEW.
Right. Is he going to stay with AEW? Is he going to jump to WWE, or is it going to be something else? Is he going to go back to Japan?
From an honest perspective, it makes sense that he goes back to AEW. From a fan's perspective, I kind of want to see him go back to New Japan and focus on the US title. Just pull out baller matches, the one-winged angel style we saw at, Wrestle Kingdom that everybody's talking about, where they're like, it's a serious Omega. He plays like a final boss. He's this cool dude, little words, but he plays in the ring because he's amazing. And I'm like, yeah, I can see the appeal. And jumping to WWE, it feels a little too meh for me. I feel like he doesn't have anything to prove with WWE. He's just like the never wrestler. Would it be cool? Sure, but it's so far-fetched that I'm like, I don't really want to see it. But
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he would fit into the WWE style. I mean, maybe with Hunter there, yes, he would. But I mean, would I like to see Kenny Omega versus Seth Rollins? Yes. Is it going to happen? Maybe. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I've learned with wrestling, the answer is always
never say never.
Exactly. But also don't hold your breath. Like that's because crazier things have happened in the world of wrestling. So it's like, yeah, I mean, it could happen maybe if you give up eventually.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what, Kenny Omega is going to make some money when in his contract. So,
do you think he stays in AEW? Like, do you think he's got more stuff to do there? Or do he wants to focus on Japan, or maybe just tour for a little bit and then just?
I would say, if anything, he's going to do the whole maybe do a quick tour of Japan and then come back to a big ovation that he's back. But apparently also the Young Bucks contract is up at the beginning of next year. So I mean, and the Bucks and Omega have the same agent. So there was speculation that Omega, he may go to Japan for a couple months to, wait until the Bucks get done, and maybe they come as a package deal to someplace. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be a very interesting time in the world of professional wrestling. That's all I got to say. And you're right. He probably would get lost in the shuffle of WWE. I mean,
yeah, that's another thing. I'm glad Ace brought that up because it's cool in a fan booking sense. Like when you're sitting there with your toy box and you're like, oh, like when you're playing with Batman and Spider-Man and you're like, wouldn't that be cool? But then you think about it for too much and then you're like, nah, that'd be stupid. Because we're wrestling fans and it's like, yeah, he probably would get lost in the shuffle in WWE.
Yeah. So I know you wanted to talk about the new Forbidden Door pay-per-view, and I don't see I know I put the graphic in here, but I can't find it. So apparently there's going to be a Forbidden Door 2. I did not know about this, so
I can't confirm if this is like official. I just looked it up, and it says that Tony Khan set a date for it. I can pull it up real quick. Oh gosh. Let me see. Forbidden Door 2.
And I think you asked us, like, what would you like to see as a dream match? And I don't know enough about New Japan to really speak on that. I mean, I think
I just play it like. Oh, sorry.
I guess you could do Mercedes versus somebody in AEW, maybe.
Mercedes versus Britt Baker would sell.
Yeah,
I'd watch those two. Make it an Iron Woman match or something, or not even that. What is it? Submission specialist match. That'd be perfect.
Yeah, something like because they both got the submission moves. So
and they can be brutal. Like if those two are let to cut loose and just beat the crap out of each other, it'd be a tough ass match. Like especially for those two.
And I would maybe Ospreay versus Daniel Bryan. I think that would be a really good match. Or Bryan Danielson. Yeah. That would probably steal the show. But I know you had one that you would like to see.
Well, we could build off of this. Mainly just anybody versus Okada, but if I could pick somebody specifically, Adam Page. And that's just because, maybe it could be for the IWGP Championship. Does Page have to win? I don't know. Would it be cool? Yes, because I wanted that to happen the first time, but I got my hopes up. But realistically, I just want the storyline for Okada versus Hangman. Maybe they've already done it recently. I don't know. I haven't been keeping up with everything. But they had a G1 Climax match back when Page was like mid-card guy in the Bullet Club, and it was really cool. And I kind of want to see like but this is where he's at now. And then just that kind of clashing of metal to see how stronger Page has got. I'm looking at this like an anime nerd, so forgive me.
Yeah. I'm at a disadvantage because I don't really. I read the results for all the New Japan shows, but I don't follow like the storyline arcs and stuff like that. But I know there was talk that it was going to be Ospreay versus Bryan Danielson at the first Forbidden Door, but Bryan Danielson was hurt. And there was also talk about Adam Cole wrestling somebody, and Adam Cole was hurt. So,
gosh, there's so many. Yeah, that's the thing. I keep thinking about it because they got most of the people, but now I'm just like, but there's so many people on the AEW roster who haven't fought them yet. And that's where my brain likes to play around with it a lot.
You're like putting here and then bringing the string down here,
like
and then
red
string
line
here, and
like those huge conspiracy nut walls. But
right,
you're
like that meme that shows that when someone's trying to explain a crime or something, and they've got like all the red lines going to each different picture and stuff like that.
And that picture of Charlie Day, which is like all the pictures on my wall.
So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna jump in as we wait for Big Daddy P to come in, and then at the top of the hour we might get a chance to talk about some more stuff that's going on in the world of professional wrestling here. Just throw out some topics. If you have something that you want us to talk about, throw it in the chat. We'll try to get to it. But I know that you have a statement from the CEO, Dwan Mills. But I know that you have I hear myself in the background.
Whoops. Sorry. My phone's busted. There we go. Okay, you said I had a statement? Yes, I do. I gotta pull it up though. Let me just let's fill it in with the Jeopardy music. Oh gosh. Let's see. All right. So this is on behalf of the FWWC News because Mr. CEO is a busy man. So I will be taking care of it, but this is on his behalf. So we have the message. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Wrestle Talk podcast and FWWC. Unfortunately, I, that being the CEO, will be unable to appear on the segment this evening. Work went extremely late, and I'm still handling business at home. He has the card information on the upcoming FWWC Friday night fights. Hopefully it's a good fight, and be sure to watch the page tomorrow for a special announcement concerning the Thursday's FWWC Wrestlers Court. That would be featuring yours truly, the Alpha.
What did you do? What did you do?
I drew a dime, sir. That's exactly what I did.
I do.
And I have the card here. We have it for Friday Night Fights, the 4th of March. We have Miss Susie Haas versus Cannibal Lecter and Oni versus Mr. Sick. And the road to Universe Mania 9. It seems like an interesting card. Mr. CEO, thank you for the opportunity to be able to comment on your behalf. We know you're always working, and thank you for doing your job booking here in the FWWC, especially because I'm liking my odds going into Universe Mania. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Just kidding. I do this job because I love it.
Never a dime. Not a dime. Not a dime.
Sorry, you said never drew a dime. I had to throw that in there for you.
So perfect. I love that. I love the phrase "not a dime" just because you can't buy anything with a dime now, so it makes it even more worthless. Like when they say you can't even draw that.
I was gonna say you can't even. Sometimes you can't even buy anything with a quarter anymore. So
you can't buy anything with $1. Like what? It's crazy.
Well, anyways, we're kind of getting to that point where you don't know if that you can buy anything with $1. So I mean,
right. So we're looking to continue.
Yeah, we're just. I don't know if I have any more questions. Okay, there was this, and it annoyed me. Apparently,
That's
CM Punk with a fan said,
"Oh gosh, this we might as well talk about it. We got to fill up time, so let's go for it. What's got you so bummed about it? Tell me.
CM Punk said that I guess a fan shouted at him that we never want to see you wrestle again, and he shouted back to he's like, "Oh, you will see me wrestle again, and you will purchase it," or something to that effect. Are we ever going to see CM Punk in the ring again? And I guess a follow-up question: do you want to see CM Punk in the ring again?
See, this is such a very weird question because I was really holding out hope that this was all a work. And I'm starting to think it's not a work. But as far as redeeming it goes, I mean, if Phil still wants to do it, sure. But as far as do I want to see it, aside from maybe a match with Kenta for the New Japan Strong title, but that's only for goobers like me who care about that. Like, because I'm the only guy who cares about that feud. Like, just because I feel like he's not a dead property. It's just more like there's controversy. And yes, controversy gives you cash, but also it makes a very weird work environment. So I don't know. I'm torn. No, and no. Yeah. Well, Ace over here. He needs to stay far away from any wrestling promotion. Very
that's a harsh statement. So
I mean, that's what I'm saying, though. Some people feel that strongly about him. I know Ace isn't the only one. I mean, do you think the issue is how Punk is conducting himself, or do you think it's just?
I don't know. I honestly I don't know. It's just when he came back, there was all this hype, and he put on some really good matches, but sometimes the sometimes the backstage stuff what's the word I'm looking for? Sometimes the backstage stuff overlaps the what he does in the ring.
Overshadows it.
Overshadows. That's the word I'm looking for. Sorry, my brain's going in 100 different ways to Sunday.
That's okay.
So,
we're hiding it right now. It's fine.
It's okay. We got this. But yeah, I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I want to see him back in the ring. If he really is truly a cancer, then maybe he needs to go away. But is he a cancer because people say he's a cancer? And said he's toxic, repeat storylines on every promotion is overrated. I don't know for sure if that's the truth. I mean, he went away for 7 years, and all we were asking for him was to come back. And now it's kind of like, yeah, we had you. We're done with you. It's time for you to go on.
Especially, yeah, and I think that's the issue too. Is that it's everybody's done with CM Punk, but CM Punk's not done with us. So it's very weird because you have to applaud his ambition, but you have to kind of fault him for it too, because it's like, okay, well, I'm glad you're dedicated to trying to go somewhere, but it doesn't seem like anybody's asking for you anymore. So why?
And I guess him being hurt helps him right now. I mean, because he's out of sight, out of mind. But I mean, I don't know. Is anyone really clamoring for him to come back? I don't know.
I'm in a weird spot because I like things about Punk, and I admit there are good matches, but right now in the landscape of wrestling, he's got issues.
Right. So all right. Well, I just saw him pop up backstage. We're gonna head to our Snippets of Truth segment. It's our very uplifting segment every week. So we're gonna get ready to introduce to the Wrestle Talk podcast, Big Daddy P. Big Daddy,
What's up?
Big Daddy, how are you tonight?
You know, if I was doing any better, I'd be twins. Could you imagine if there was two of me?
Oh my God, I don't think the world is ready for that. So
I don't think she would mind.
She might run away. I'm not for sure. I'm Mrs. P might run away. So
She'd love it. The kids would hate it, you know, because I'm loud enough as is. Let alone you add two of me, it's just as intense. But I'm blessed, brother. I'm with, you know, we're on the road to WrestleMania. The wrestling business is doing really well all across the world. We really have nothing to complain about. We've got great matches, great events coming up, except the Brock Lesnar almost match.
we talked about that earlier, man. We talked about that, and I was on the fence with it. I don't know how I feel about it yet.
Well, I know one thing's for sure, and that is hopefully they've been working with Omos, because Brock Lesnar is going to suplex him, and it's going to be a very quick match.
You think they go for the ring exploding spot?
No, because you would have to do it at the end of the show, and I don't.
Brock's not that big.
Yeah, I don't.
Almost,
but he did it to Big Show. Omos is that big. Well, I mean, Brock was involved in one of them. Anyways.
It's all good, man.
Hey, we can talk semantics later.
I have to tell you, because I was thinking about the Snippets of Truth tonight, and I love it because we're at episode 430, which of course causes me to look up Ephesians 4:30. I looked up Ephesians 4:26 because as these episodes add, I can't help but check it, and I was reminded it says, "Do not grieve the Holy Spirit." And I was thinking about this relationship that God has given us. You know, He calls us co-workers with Him. The fact that He uses us today to encourage one another, the fact that we can be used by Him to influence and to help encourage, especially at times right now. I mean, you've got, you know, most of the big cities are the most violence they've seen in over 50, 60 years. You know, we've got a lot of there are so many things going on right now internationally, but I just wanted to remind everybody that no matter how crazy it looks, not only is God in control, and not only are things going to be okay, but we have to remember that He knows His business. He knows the future. He knows the past. So while we're being concerned about the temporary things like money and our careers, we've got eternal issues that we need to work on. We have issues that we need to be able to, I mean, it says in Corinthians, it says, do everything in love. What part of everything is partial? You know, we have to love one another. Not only should we love one another, but, and one of the things I've been dealing with recently is about when the Bible talks about praying for my enemies. That's hard, man. I want to slit their throat. I don't want to pray for them. You know what I mean? My flesh wants to get, so this has been all about self-control and trying to control here, because what goes on here, no one knows but me. But even today, I was struggling with bitterness towards someone, or we're under attack, not spiritually, but physically. And in the past, I would respond, I would get really upset, and then I would respond. But when it says you can be angry, but don't sin, meaning it's okay to be upset about something, but don't let those situations cause you to do something that's going to make it bad for somebody else, even if they deserve it. He said, he says, vengeance is mine. But it's hard to turn the other cheek, man. And we have a right to defend ourselves. So don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But my truth tonight for everybody is to, in a nutshell, chill out. Those people that might be against you, those issues that you might be having, they're temporary. Make sure that, and I don't know, have we gotten any prayer requests tonight?
We actually have something that came in. Alpha has some of the information about it. And I believe he's in the chat. The gentleman that sent it to us, he's a longtime listener of the podcast and sent it in to us. So Alpha, you.
Oh gosh, I might have to look for it.
Hold on. I have it right here.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
William Bromlow is a longtime fan of the Wrestle Talk podcast. He was in there. He was stating how he doesn't want CM Punk in the wrestling business anymore. I agree.
Let me tell you something. The funniest thing, I've been in music my whole life. Lead singers are drama queens, right? Well, when I got into the wrestling business, do you realize that's like having all the members of the band being singers in wrestling? They're all drama kings and queens. That's why they're in the business. Okay. So ultimately, he is a drama queen. He gets paid either way. So I just want to share that my opinion in regards to CM Punk is he will not be back. That's just I could be wrong. He could come back at WrestleMania as far as I know. I have no clue, but I don't think he's going to.
Yeah, so he sent it in. It's a friend of his family. And they're close to each other, and they're desperately looking for answers. And someone that disappeared back in 2007 from Titan, Georgia. I hope I don't know the exact. Is like her name is Brandy Natasha Cole. She disappeared at the age of 17. She would be 33 right now. And they're holding out hope that they can find answers, and they're seeking out closure because apparently the police might have let it go a little bit cold. So maybe we can offer some words of encouragement.
God knows exactly where she is. God knows exactly where she is. So if for whatever reason, maybe this is our test, and I'm glad you brought it up, by us praying for the situation, just maybe. And again, see, not a lot of people believe in prayer. They think that prayer is something that, is like hokey dokey or whatever. But the fact is, when we communicate with God and we make our requests known to him, he is faithful to answer. So Brandy Cole is who's missing. And as well as looks like Ashley Holloway. And
yeah, this came from a missing person. We found some information on it, on a missing person.
Rachel Hasten.
Yeah. So hopefully they've been found since then. But yeah,
it's kind of there's this old statement about don't pray for dead people. Meaning, have you ever prayed for somebody and they were gone already and you didn't know? It's not like God goes, "Oh wow, I'm surprised." No, he knows. So there isn't any offense for praying for somebody or some situation that maybe it's been solved already and we don't know. But the fact that we will take the time to make our request known to him not only gets his attention, but it also shows others that we believe what we say. It's one thing to believe in God, but it's another to believe God. Let me say that one more time. You can believe in him, but not believe him. It's really, really simple, but you need to be in a position to trust. And maybe that's what this is all about. I don't know, but we got
and I said the name of the town wrong. It was Tifton, Georgia, not Tifton,
Okay.
Tifton, Georgia. So we hopefully she's still out there, or at least the family gets closure.
What's funny is, what does it say about William?
William is the family friend that brought it to us.
And see, the fact that he would bring it to the table for discussion and for prayer speaks volumes about who he is. Remember, my friends, here's a good snippet of truth. When they show you who they are, believe them. And whatever that means to whoever you meet. If you're dealing with somebody and they're blowing smoke up your back end, believe that that's who they are. So, William, thank you, brother. We appreciate the prayer request. We will definitely add it to the prayers. Do you guys, do either one of you have anything?
Alpha kind of had his hand raised. So
Oh, I was just going like this. Like I was saying, we love William.
We do have one that just popped up from Jared. He hopes that his prays his relationship gets better, getting things together so he can get married soon. So hopefully.
Most people don't know that marriage is the number one battleground in the spiritual life. If the enemy can tear down the family, he can tear down the nation. That's the reason why families are being split over the last 50, 60 years. There's been a crack in the family. God has allowed a crack to happen where families are separating and they're not coming together anymore. So they're living individually, and it's a very selfish lifestyle. So rest assured, the fact that you're getting into a relationship and are considering marriage, just understand that the person that you're going to marry, if you have not been through hard times with them yet, you really don't know who they are. You really know the person once they've been heated up because you've seen how they've responded. So if you're single and you're looking for somebody, spend time with them. I don't know about you, but have you guys ever bought a car without test driving it? Me either. You're muted, by the way. But anyway, in anybody who hears this, if you're getting into a relationship, it's easy to love the person when things are good. It's when all hell breaks loose and a bunch of bad stuff happens. How do they respond? Choose wisely. That's all I have to say about that.
Well, Perry, Big Daddy P, you always bring the truth, and you always you always bring the positivity. You always put a good spin on everything when things are down. I mean, you got the weather up there. Justin Wade was supposed to be here with us tonight, but he has no power up there in Seattle with the snowstorms up on the West Coast, and
California. My goodness,
I know
more snow and more cold weather. I'm like, thank God I moved to Tennessee. You know, it was beautiful today for the first time in quite a long time. We went for a 3.8 mile walk. Boy, it felt good to walk. I got some weight to lose. Look at my neck. It's getting big again. It's winter, man. Winter always gets me. I hibernate. I don't move as much. But the moment that sun comes out and the weather gets better, man, I start walking, I start moving, and I start feeling better.
And it's February. You're not used to walking this early in the year. You're probably not used to walking until at least April or something. You know?
Yeah, pretty much. But again, man, it's just one of those things where you don't know what to expect. So because you don't know what to expect, I've just learned to be content and thankful for what I have. Are we ready to pray?
Yeah. Once you
let's do it.
Let's do it. So I'm gonna go ahead and take it away.
Heavenly Father, we thank you so much, for we know that all things come through you, even in the book of Job, when Satan presented himself to you and you asked him, have you considered my servant Job? And Satan replied with, I can't touch him. He belongs to you. You've got a wall of protection around him. We always forget that sovereignty is monopolized by God and God alone. He knows everything. He is everywhere. There's not a place that he can't go. And so we thank you that we can come before you tonight with an attitude of gratitude, with a basket full of thanksgiving for all the things that you have given us, for all the things that we want and we desire that we don't have yet. We'll get them in your timing. But in the meantime, we're thankful and going to be content with what we have. Father, you heard the request tonight, especially the request for the relationship, as well as those that are missing. Father, we know that you have all the facts and we don't. We can't judge it because we don't know, but you do. And I thank God every day. I think that we can just come before you with these prayer requests, knowing that you're listening. The fact that you call us co-workers and that we can be a part of this plan is such a privilege. And I thank you for Wrestle Talk. I pray that you continue to grow it, that you continue to strengthen it. I look forward to this interview coming up after. And I'm just thankful that we can be a part of this each week. We also know that we are coming close to WrestleMania and there are plans being set. There are also injuries that are taking place that need healing, Father. So we pray that you continue to heal all of these workers, especially those on the independent scene who don't have insurance, who don't have any kind of benefits. They just love doing it. So, Father, I thank you in advance for what you're going to do. I just ask that as we go forward through the rest of this evening, that we will forget that either one of two things are going to happen tomorrow. Either we're going to wake up or you're going to return. Either way, we win. Thank you so much. And we love you. And we ask these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Well, Big Daddy P, we always enjoy you coming on the Wrestle Talk podcast, spreading those snippets of truth. So it's a great time. We hope to see you again next week, and be safe, and hopefully the weather stays nice and you can get out there and get doing your walking thing, because I need to do a little bit more of that. So,
well, it's hard because both I don't know about you, but I'm pretty much on the computer all day.
Yes, me too.
I have to take breaks, and I've had 2 back surgeries. Which, by the way, man, my titanium back is incredible. I got neuropathy in the feet and the calves a little bit still. That is the hardest part. But the day-to-day pain, all the sciatic, all that junk is all gone. So absolutely. I at least 1 or 2 times a day have to get up, have to move around, especially with the weather is nice. So, but just so that you guys know, and I'm sure I mentioned it before, but man, this is a privilege to be able to come on a podcast and to be able to present these truths, to be able to be an encouragement in the midst. And I know, guys, there are people who probably don't like it, preachy, whatever. That's okay. Because you know why? What if there's one person that it affects? I'm good.
Yeah, we want you to stick around. Maybe catch the interview on WrestleTalkPodcast.com on YouTube and everything. We got the widow of Bruiser Brody's widow is going to be on the show. So
I saw that. I can't wait for it.
So Big Daddy P, thanks for coming. Thanks for hanging out with us. We will see you again next week.
Much love. Until next time.
All right,
take it easy, man.
See you.
That was Big Daddy P and those snippets of truth. Alpha, we're just going to keep on rolling here because our guest is backstage.
I'm excited.
Ready to go. You're kind of a Japan guy, so I'm sure you've seen classic matches of Bruiser Brody.
I have, and they scare me. But much to his ability, of course.
Yes. So we're going to bring on, she's going to be part of the event. It's Saturday, May the 13th at the Aviator Hotel off of Lindbergh in South County for SICW and their Fan Fest, along with a whole bunch of other stars. It's like a who's who in the wrestling business. It is our pleasure to welcome to the Wrestle Talk podcast, the widow of the great Bruiser Brody, Barbara Goodish.
Woo-hoo. Thank you. Well, thank you for having me, and thank you.
I love your taste in music.
Hey,
This was and Barbara knows this, that this was his theme music over in Japan, if I am not mistaken, right?
No, you are completely right.
Oh,
That
am
was
I? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
For once. No,
Yeah.
I just kidding, Big Sexy.
No, you were completely right. That was, he had a couple of them to come into the ring, and that was definitely the most favorite one. One of the
Right.
ones over here in the old days was "Bad to the Bone," which was quite
Ooh.
appropriate too.
Well, yeah, it fits his style. So, Barbara, I want to thank you for joining us, and hope that you were doing well. You're going to be in the St. Louis area. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but let's kind of go back to the beginning. I want to go back to the beginning. How did you meet How did you meet Bruiser Brody? Where did everything start at? Start at the beginning.
Well, it happened Sydney, Australia. I just happened to be working in a motel that the boys, what we call them, the wrestlers, the boys
Right.
were staying, the ones that were doing the circuit between Australia and New Zealand. They would stay in this hotel. And I met them all. I mean, Andre the Giant, I met JJ Dillon, Don Morocco, Ricky Martel. I mean, I could just go on and on and on, so I won't take up the time in telling. So they became this. You have to remember, this was the time before computers, and this was the time before social media. So when they were overseas, especially from America, and it was too expensive to make phone calls back in those days, if you remember, or you're probably both too young to remember that.
I'm 40. I'm 46. So yeah, that's but I do remember the house phone. So
My parents and grandparents tell me stories.
So I would get the mail. I'd give them their mail. They'd show me pictures of the family and the wives and what's going on. And it was pretty lonely when you traveled to another country in those days to keep in contact with family. So just what happened this night. It was a Friday night, I can remember, and they talked me into working a 3 to 11 shift, because the lady didn't show up that was meant to work the later shift. So I said, well, I'll work the double shift. That's fine. So just as I'm getting ready to leave, 11 o'clock at night, the taxis pull up and they get out, and, because they'd finished their show. Now, I have to tell you, the funniest one getting out was Andre the Giant getting out of those little cars.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine.
Yeah, you didn't have big cars over there, because you have to remember our petrol, as we call them, has always been expensive. So the little tiny cars, it was like trying to push them in there and drag him out. He was, as you know, he was so big and the cars were so small. So they talked me into, I was getting ready to go home, and they said, well, my boss, who was an American gentleman, had a bar up the street as well as the hotel motel, and it was called the Bourbon and Beef. So they said, well, look, we're all just going up for a drink. Why don't you just come up? You just finished work, just come up with us. So I went up.
Wait, you mean the wrestlers spent time in a bar? I mean, I would never have guessed that.
Piano bar,
Aw.
Yeah, after work, and you know how people like to, after work, when you're young, go out and have a few drinks and wind down.
Piano bar, it makes it classy,
Yeah. So it was a piano bar. It was a Bourbon and Beef. It was really nice, and so I just happened to be there. I mean, there was probably 10 of them. We're all sitting at the same table, just talking. I mean, because like I said, they were like my brothers back in those days. They were just friends. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, one by one, they kept starting to leave. It was like, okay, one by one. Then all of a sudden, there was only 3 of us left. There was Frank, and there was Killer Carl Krupp, who's also passed. So I was like, well, this is strange. Now there's only 3 of us. Then Carl gets up and he doesn't come back. Well, as you might have figured, I got worked. He didn't know how to get me.
Oh, no, really?
He'd set it up with the boys. Look, if I ask her out, she's not going to come with me. So why don't we all ask her You all know, let's all ask you to go up, have a drink, but please, you've got to all leave. So that I got work from the very beginning.
that was your first experience of being worked in the wrestling business.
Yeah, so I've seen several works since then though.
and I can only imagine that the person that we see Bruiser Brody in the ring was not the same person that he was behind the scenes.
No, that's why I try to tell people. I think what he did, he was a businessman, so he never lost sight of who he really was. He didn't become Bruiser Brody except when he had to be Bruiser Brody. When Bruiser Brody came home, he was Frank Goodish as a businessman. So I can always say that when I used to take him to the airport, and these were the days when you could, go right up to the door of the airport. I mean, I would drop him off. Me and Jeff, would drop him off at the airport, and you could see the transformation going from father, husband, to the character that he portrayed, Bruiser Brody. And it was like even the walk, he'd go through those doors, and it was like, boom, he just became Bruiser Brody. Picking him up, the same thing. He would walk as Bruiser Brody, come out the doors, and was Frank Goodish. So the transformation was really, really quite something. But I think that's why he was successful, because he never lost sight of who he really was.
And was able to, and got that work life balance that everyone is struggling for. Did you ever go with him on the road to like Japan or to
No.
Puerto Rico? You stayed home. You stayed home.
I was the wife and mother. So I probably only saw 5 or 6 matches the whole time. I mean, I saw matches on TV because after he was in Japan, he would bring matches home because Japan is an entirely different scene than what the American scene is. So he would come home and then he would watch his matches. He'd get matches from Japan and he would critique himself. And, just like you do in a business to be successful, and say, well, I didn't really like that. Well, I could have done that. So he critiqued himself on his matches, and then I'd be walking through the house, and of course I'd see a few there. But the one match that I remember, and a lot of people do, was when the Japanese were over here in St. Louis, and he worked with Ric Flair for 1 hour because people had no idea that he could ever work that much. And it was like a Japanese style match because it was being filmed for the Japanese TV. So I saw that, and people have all quite often remarked to me about that match because I think it was something they just couldn't. Well, Bruiser Brody, he can work, because usually he's in there just causing chaos, I guess you would like to say. So so I did see. I was in town for that match, so I saw one of the good matches.
Yeah, and I can only imagine Ric Flair. You think of Bruiser Brody, you think of his matches with like Abdul the Butcher and stuff like that, and stuff like that. You don't really think of him as someone that could probably go 60 minutes with the best at the time, the Nature Boy Ric Flair. So
it must have been a very, I guess, capitalizing moment for him, because as a wrestler it's like, oh no, he can show his worth to put on whatever match he wants to, he was able to see, I can put on this kind of match because people expect this and I'm the unexpected, if that makes sense.
yeah, because as I said, it wasn't something that any of the Americans had seen, because he was in there like kind of beating up people. And then all of a sudden
the bloodbaths.
And of course, what did they say? Red makes green.
Oh gosh.
Yes, that is true.
It doesn't help their complementary colors.
No.
Yeah, and Alpha's a big Japanese wrestling fan. So I
am.
And I believe he
had an uncle who recommended a lot of Bruiser Brody matches. He managed to find a couple that before, I think they might have been taken down, but he had showed me a lot of matches that they had in Japan, and I was very scared because I was like, is this a match? This feels like a murder.
Well, that's the thing about Japan wrestling is, Yeah, they like the strong style and the mat wrestling, but they also like the bigger guys, like a Brody, like a Stan Hansen, like a Big Van Vader, and stuff like that.
They commanded such a presence. It was amazing. Like Barbara, I have to ask. I mean, how does it feel to know? I mean, somebody as young as me. I mean, I'm 24, but like, how does it feel to know that his legacy is being talked about as late as like now? I mean, it's 2023. This is how many years Pat
This
removed?
is 88. So what is that? 35 years this July?
Just about, I think,
30,
right?
yeah, 35 years this July. Yeah, 1988. July 1988 was when everything happened. And you're right. Someone like you, it really amazes me. I mean, to think that he left such a legacy that people still remember him this long after. And you were one of the ones, you weren't even here when he left us, and yet you watched him and you know who Bruiser Brody is. And for his family, it's like it's an honor that everybody remembers him, because I go to some of these conventions around the country, and like you, I have people coming up to me, and I always ask them, well, how old are you? And it amazes me that there's so many like yourself that know who he is and will tell me story, and it's like, but you would. And the other thing that gets me is these people that have the tattoos. I mean, on their bodies, it's like, I always take a photograph because I think, what an honor.
That's amazing.
I don't think he would believe the legacy that he left. So to his family, it's an honor, and thank you. I mean,
do you think he would be surprised that people would still be thinking about him? We're in 2023. And people still talk about Bruiser Brody matches up until this day. I mean, do you think he would be surprised, humbled, be like, what is going on here? What do you think he would think?
Because the one thing he used to tell me was when he went out there and he gave a match, because what he said, these people, the fans, are paying good money to come to a wrestling match, and I just want to give them the best night of their life, so that when they leave, they say, wow, that was really good. But, I mean, it's got to be real. And I think a lot of people from him, because it did, for me, it always looks real with what he did a lot of times from what some of the new wrestling is today. I was very fortunate. I got to see when Cody was AEW, Cody Rhodes. He did their first, I was in Daytona Beach, and he did his first match for the AEW right here in Daytona Beach. And I was fortunate enough, Jim Ross, gave me tickets to go, and put me in the front row, and it's like, never been in the front row before. But yes, they're very athletic, and it's very good. But there's no storyline. It's not like in the old days where there's a storyline. I mean, these were wonderful, wonderful athletes.
The art of the storytelling in the ring has been lost to a certain extent. I mean, I don't know what to say. Was there ever a time that you watched a match of his and was like, you saw something happen that you're like, oh, he maybe he didn't land right on his knee or something?
Any fumbles?
No, you have to remember when he came home, it was like, oh, he can't move. Or his poor son, I mean, his forehead was cut up like nothing on earth. Yes, I see.
Because they just kind of went for it back then, didn't they? They were like, it's fine.
When they slip sometimes, and one time it slipped and just about went right in his eye, and it came. That's why he had a little scar on his eyebrow, and that.
I think that's real enough for me.
Yeah, that it was. I guess I just got used to it because that was kind of what he did, as a living, but it always, and I look back on some of the photographs now that people post, and I see those scars on his forehead, and it's like,
Yeah, it's kind of like the cheese grater type thing, because you can still kind of see it with Abdullah and Flair to a point, and it's just
It's got a very distinct shape,
the
specifically the way
thing
that it goes.
now, and I know some of the like with some of the wrestlers, which looks better because they
go this way, yeah,
and
but
you can't tell so much.
But yeah, it's like almost Abdullah the Butcher looks with those up and down. It looks like if you just kind of flick it at the right angle, he's gonna bust open. So
I believe it was reported he's got grooves deep enough to hold poker chips in.
I believe that. Yeah.
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 Nothing but love, Abdullah.
I've had many a time with Abdullah.
and that's one of Bruiser Brody's biggest rivals was Abdul. They fought all over the place. They fought in Texas. I believe they probably fought in Puerto Rico.
I believe I actually saw a video of him fighting in Puerto Rico. It was
it was. I mean, it's like
they fought everywhere but the ring. It was quite impressive, actually.
I believe I watched a cage match one time where they took 5 to 10 minutes to get into the cage. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, I mean maybe not that long, but it wouldn't surprise you that they started the match on the outside and then went into the cage and they were all busted up before they even got into the cage. So, but
oh my God, it's as I said, those are some of the matches that is like. But I have to say I've got a real good lesson. Because as you know, Bruiser Brody Memorial with Herb Simmons is coming up on the 13th of May in St. Louis. How do you pronounce that?
It's the Aviator Hotel.
Aviator. Sometimes my tongue gets twisted.
Yeah, it's off of South Lindbergh. It's a fan fest, and then that night they're going to have the SICW show. It's going to be the Bruiser Brody Memorial Battle Royal. And that's something I wanted to ask you about. Is how does it make you feel that the St. Louis area, because he made a big name here in the St. Louis area with Larry Matisick, who was a co-author of the book that's behind you.
Yeah,
the Brody book. How does it feel for SICW to continue to honor him and give out a Brody Cup every year?
With Herb and Larry's already passed us, left us now too. I mean, Frank loved going to St. Louis, and with Sam Muchnick. I mean, he loved going to St. Louis because what it is, he was always treated fair. He could go there and he knew that it was going to be upfront the whole way. Because sometimes some of the territories weren't always upfront, and he knew when he went there, whatever he got paid, it was going to be done. Everything was going to be cool. There was no stress. So he really enjoyed. That was probably the place he enjoyed the most, was in St. Louis. And with Herb and Larry, unbelievable. And for him to be putting the memorial show on, and this has been going on for a lot of years now. Well, when I go to these memorial shows, it's amazing. I'll get up to do the trophy, to present the trophy and everything. And all the audience, they start just, chanting, Brody, 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 or Huss, Huss.
Well, we're gonna deviate things because I also want to talk about the dark side of the sad part of the dark side of the ring. But backstage right now, we have a very special guest who wanted to come on and talk to you. Speaking of Herb Simmons, ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring in the promoter of SICW, the one and only, the great Herb Simmons. Herb, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, Herb.
Hey, thanks everybody. Barbara, as always, a great job. I've heard those stories for many, many years. And every time I hear you talk about how you first met Frank and at the hotel and how you were worked for the first time, it's music to my ears. And I want to thank you guys for having her on tonight, because she is part of the wrestling family by far. She's as you can see, a classy lady, and she anytime all these years now that I've continued the Bruiser Brody Memorial, she cleans her schedule and comes to St. Louis for us. And May 13th, I think, is even going to be. I think this is going to top it.
Yeah. And Darla Staggs, I meant to put this up before. She said hi to her bestie Barbara. Darla Staggs is watching us.
Hey, hi, Darla.
So her. Why don't you give us a little bit of a rundown of what's going to happen on May the 13th at the Fan Fest at the Aviator? It is the Aviator, right? I am saying that right.
Yes,
okay.
Aviator Hotel and Ballroom. I got to tell you, this was something. Nick Rednar, you guys are familiar with Nick, my senior referee, and we've talked about doing something like this for a few years, and so we said we'll try it this year. This is my 50th year. This is this February, the last day of the month here. That I've been promoting. So I thought, well, let's do a little fan fest. And we said, we'll bring in, half a dozen of the guys, and we'll get Barbara to come in. We'll have the Bruiser Brody. We'll do the Hall of Fame induction. We decided early on we were going to induct Jerry Briscoe into the Hall of Fame and J.J. Dillon. But I got to tell you, the phone started ringing, and it's still ringing as recently as tonight. I'm getting calls from around the country of people wanting to come in. I think we're up to like 40 legends right now that will be beyond. In fact, they're telling me I got to get a bigger poster because it's just about filled up.
Right.
With the names.
I think I need a bigger poster.
Yeah, but again, it's kind of like the movie Jaws. I think we needed a bigger boat. So, it'll start at 10 o'clock that morning, and the Fan Fest will run all day long. We're scheduling a question and answer session that afternoon with some of the legends and special guests, and later on that evening we'll have the Hall of Fame induction. We're honored to have JBL coming in to do the honor of inducting Jerry Briscoe into the Hall of Fame. And then I've been asked and really honored by Pam, J.J. Dillon's daughter, to induct J.J. into the Hall of Fame, Pam Morrison. So that was kind of a surprise. So, if I start talking about J.J. Dillon, we may be there until the following week, because there's a guy that has done it all in the business, and I'm just really honored to be inducting him into that Hall of Fame. We started that Hall of Fame a long time ago when Larry was still with us, and I think we're up to like 44 people in the Hall of Fame now, and it's we don't have the limousine drivers and people like that. We have the guys from Sam Muchnick on down, and that really meant something into their business the way it was. But then the evening will be rounded off. We'll have I haven't even announced the wrestling cards yet. I've been putting.
I was just saying, we're like you've been announcing a few. I've seen you've announced a few of the entrants into the battle royal, but there's going to be other matches besides that. So
there'll be at least. I know we're going to have at least one women's match. We're going to have the battle royal. I just announced tonight. Derek McQuinn, one of Harley Race's graduates from back in 2002. But I'm getting wrestlers from around the country wanting to come just to enter into this because they know it's a big thing. And but I could tell everybody we can have all the legends we want, but if we don't have a Barbara Goodish there to do what we're doing to keep the legacy and the memories of Bruiser Brody, he was one, as you can see him on the wall there behind me. Him, Larry Matisek, and Sam Much. So, my two of my three animals are called Bruiser and Brody, a Belgian Malinois and a German Shepherd. And they're about as big and mean as Bruiser could be at times when he was doing his business. But outside the ring, he was a businessman. He was somebody that I loved to talk with. He was very intelligent. He could tell you about the stock market. He could tell you about any of that stuff. And when Barbara talks about the transformation from Frank Goodish to Bruiser Brody, I got to see it many times over the years, and I owe all of that to the likes of Sam Muchnick and Larry Matisek. And she talked about the one match. He actually had 3 1-hour matches with Ric Flair in St. Louis, and they tore the place down. And but again, whether it be Abdullah the Butcher, I did a interview Sunday with John Nord, who's coming in on the 13th. He's the one that brought John Nord into me, and we did a lot of business with John Nord and Bruiser Brody, Dick Murdoch, Crusher Blackwell. I owe all of those guys that he introduced me to Frank Goodish.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great time, and I know you're just popping on just to say hi to your good friend Barbara Goodish, and where can people get tickets for this event?
All they got to do is go to sicw.org. There's the packages on there. We've tried to keep it as economical as possible. In fact, I've had people call me and say, "Oh man, you're really reasonable with us." I said, well, we wanted to make this fan friendly. We wanted to go off without a hitch. And I mean, we've got people who've bought tickets from Canada, from Texas. Some people just bought 4 bundles today from Indianapolis. The hotel, if they want to have the hotel there, they can make their reservations, or there's other hotels in the area. But, we're setting up all of the guests there. So, I mean, the Nasty Boys are going to be there, the Brooklyn Brawler, Brutus the Barber Beefcake. The list just is endless. So, and like I said, right now, there's probably 4 or 5 more names that's going to be added over the next week or so. And still here, we're about 70 days away still. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a great event. It takes place Saturday, May the 13th. You said the Fan Fest starts at 10 a.m. and
we're going to open the doors at 10 a.m. unless all the legends get up early and get down there. And if they're there at 9, I will not leave the fans stand outside. I want them inside enjoying themselves. And I've got a lot of these legends that are doing me favors by coming in, and I want them to come in. I want the fans to come in and patronize them and buy their pictures and get their autographs. And because that's what it's all about. These men and women have entertained us for all these years. And so I just think it's a way we can help give back to them.
And what time is the Hall of Fame and the wrestling event? I guess the question: can people, if they don't want to go to if they're not necessarily wanting to go to the Fan Fest, can they just buy tickets to the show that night?
Yeah, and it's all spelled out on the website. There's packages there. You can buy the whole bundle, or you can buy, and if you want to upgrade to the first 2 rows around the ring, or what we call premium seats, and if those are getting pretty close to being sold out, the first 2 rows. So I suggest if anybody's wanting to do that. If not, then the rest would be general admission, first come, first serve. And but you can buy if you want to just come see the wrestling show. The thing I caution anybody who's following it, just don't think you're going to be able to come to the wrestling match and then sit around and talk to the legends of that, because some of the legends will be leaving before the wrestling starts. The arrangements I had to make with them, they got to get back on the road because they got other engagements. So I suggest if you're a wrestling fan, come and meet the legends, get their autographs, and because they won't be sitting around there while the wrestling match is going on. Some of them won't be.
Alpha, do you have a question for Herb? That you kind of look like you wanted to say something. So,
well, I mean, we got a couple here, but I think we covered most of the major ones. Oh, here we go. It says our broadcast colleagues Luke Roberts and Renee Martinez actually had the opportunity to meet you at the most recent Cauliflower Alley Club reunion in Las Vegas. Can you discuss your connection to and the importance to the Cauliflower Alley Club, Barbara? I know you're actually friends with another member that was in the comments recently that we had on the show. She's fantastic, Linda.
No, I think, and Herb is very knowledgeable on the Cauliflower Alley Club too. It's a great organization for, because you have to remember with the wrestling, there is no pensions, there's no medical, there's no way to help them. And, they don't get anything. And a lot of, especially at this time too, as everyone's getting older and hurt, and, a lot of people are having hardships right now. Well, for a wrestler that they can call, or they can, put in a thing for the Cauliflower Alley Club, and they can help them, maybe pay the rent or maybe a medical bill or something. So it's a great organization. and it's very, very reasonable. It's all on the website. You can, what is it, Herb, now? What is the fee per year? I know it's
$25 a year,
25, yes.
$100 for a lifetime membership. Yes.
Yeah, and you get 4 magazines in that time, and then you get to find out all the news. And then we have our convention. I think it's August. It's the last week in August, if I remember, this year coming up, which is a great time for anybody to come, sign up, come to the Cauliflower Alley. You get to meet one-on-one. I think it's more personal than any of the convention of that, because they actually do get to be able to talk to all the legends that come. And I think it's a wonderful organization, and I'm sure Herb can add to this too.
Well, yeah, I was asked last year to become the ambassador for the Cauliflower Alley. So I've been really, as we say, politicking around the country with other wrestling promotions to get membership drive going. And we've been successful at doing that. It's a great organization. I've seen them help many, many people. So I would encourage any wrestler that's out there. It's kind of like the Aflac in supplemental insurance. For a $25 a year, it's well worth it. They've got some restrictions. You have to have been into business either as an announcer, wrestler, ring crew member, referee. As long as you've been in it 3 years or longer, you join up, you qualify. The lady who was just on here, our good friend Darla Staggs, is actually the person that's in charge of our benevolent organization. And she's the one, if somebody needs help, she does all the screening and makes a recommendation to the executive board. And then if they qualify, then they help them. And like I said, I've seen them help many, many of our men and women in the business.
And I will say the Cauliflower Alley Club, I think I've mentioned this to you before, Herb, that it's always been it's a bucket list item of mine to go down to the Cauliflower to go to the convention to go to the convention at least one time. So
well, and I got to say, Renee and Luke was there, and of course, I've known Luke for many years, and I think they had the time of their life. Renee, in fact, I think they've already said they're going to try to get back out there this year. And it should be on everybody's bucket list. It's in the business. And the good thing about it is you don't even have to be in the business just to be a fan. And that's what I tell people when I'm out trying to solicit for it. We all grew up as wrestling fans. And as Barbara said a while ago, when these guys back in the day were traveling from town to town, 102 miles a night, they had to go from one town to another. They didn't have insurance. They didn't have the 401ks. And then all of a sudden one of them gets hurt now. But it's just really a great cause that I think that my locker room is about 99% membership right now. And that's what I'm encouraging all these other independent promotions, which I hate that word independent, because either you're a professional wrestler or you're not. There's no license anywhere in the country that says independent on it. It says professional wrestler. And but again, I just, if you know anybody who wants to join, myself, Darla, or Barbara can get the paperwork. It's all on their website, and it's real simple to do.
They were twisting my arm last year to try to go. I just couldn't make it. I couldn't make it work financially. So one of these years, I am going to make it out there. So because it's Las Vegas, and Las Vegas is a fun time on its own. So
what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
That is what I heard. Well, Herb, I want to thank you for popping on and talking to your good friend Barbara Goodish. We hope to see you at the SICW Fan Fest on Saturday, May the 13th at the Aviator Hotel. Doors open at 10 a.m. for the Fan Fest. Wrestling is later that night to have the Hall of Fame, where JBL is going to induct Gerald Briscoe, and I guess maybe a little bit of breaking news that Herb Simmons is going to induct the one and only J.J. Dillon into the St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame. Herb, thank you very much for being a supporter of the Wrestle Talk podcast. I know we'll try to have a couple people on from the Fan Fest on before the actual event. So
no problem.
I know you'll want to pop on for that too. So Herb, it's good seeing you again.
Appreciate it. Love you, Barb. See you.
Hey, love you, Herb.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You gotta love Herb Simmons, don't you?
Oh, definitely. It's like I love when I go each year and second week in May when he has the Bruiser Brody Memorial, he still does old-fashioned wrestling. I mean, I know what's going on and everything because I'm in the dressing room sometimes, but I'm out there watching, and I'm actually, it actually gets me. They get me. So that's how good that Herb's organization is. But the only thing is, I always got to be careful because Herb sometimes makes me want to go do something in one of the angles.
we don't want you to get hurt. I mean,
No, that's what it says. It's like throwing, chairs and bins and pulling people over the top rope by ponytails, and I can't do that. You can.
Is he trying to get you to wrestle Attila Khan? I mean, so I guess to end things up I guess the dark side of the ring, they did an episode of Bruiser Brody, and you were a big part of it because I remember watching. I'm like, I know her, I've heard of her. I've never met her, but I've heard of her. What was it like working on that documentary?
When Evan, the producer, and Jason, the two gentlemen that did it, when they approached me, it was like, because I've been for a long time. It was pretty hard, and I knew, because they told me we're going to have to approach a little bit of, the bad stuff, and I talked to them, and they said, look, it's going to be our pilot episode, and we really would love to do our pilot episode on Bruiser Brody. And I talked, and I think I talked to, I said, well, yeah, okay, as long as I have some say, you know what I mean? That is, it's not just, what's the word I'm looking for?
Sensationalized, like over the top, like
yeah.
and possibly
Processed
and possibly untruths too, because you could fabricate some stories and stuff like that.
So I was very impressed of how they did it. Very impressed with both of them. I'm still in contact with them because they always thank me, because after that pilot episode, I think they're on the 3rd season now. Yes. And it all started with Frank's episode. And I was, the way that did it, the one that really got me though, because we did it in Austin, and Jeff, my son, he lives in Austin, and he has never done anything about his dad. I mean, he was born in 1980, so he's going to be 43. Yeah, he's going to be 43 this year. And never, he won't do anything. I guess he kind of blames for, not having a father. So we're just sitting there. I'm doing that interview, and they turn around to him and said, well, Jeff, would you like to say a few words? When he said yes, I went, OMG, finally. You know what I mean? But the thing that really got me was, I think they kind of asked him, what memories do you have, of your father? And when he answered, I think he answered something like, everybody has memories except me, because I was on, he was only 7 when it happened. And it was like, oh my gosh. But I think that helped him, because now he can talk, he's very closed in. We talked about it, but he didn't really want to talk about it. And I don't think he really knew just how many people, or how they thought about his dad, that they looked up and that they're still remembering his dad. And I think now he's old enough to realize that his dad really meant something to a lot of people. And that was such a shame, because to go back, I won't change subjects, go back to Dark Side of the Ring. But yes, I saw the finished episode. I thought they did a good job. And all I'm going to say is there maybe is a couple of little embellishments in there from a couple of the people that maybe were, I'm not going to say, and I'm sure everybody knows exactly.
Did you get to preview the finished episode before they sent it to Vice to air? You were able to approve it?
Pretty much. They kept me updated with everything going on. And as it's like I said, I'm still in contact with Evan, so he's still, we talk once in a while or send a message to each other. So, no, I was very impressed with what they did, and if they hadn't have done it, or if I hadn't have got involved, they would have done it. Who knows how it would have turned out, and who knows, somebody would have done it, because right now, like there's a couple of Brody books out. I mean, one is full of a lot of maybe straight out, I won't say lies, but not really the whole truth. Whereas when Larry approached me, I knew that that would be a truthful book. I can tell the truth about the home life. And Larry was such an honest person that he would tell the truth about the wrestling side of it. So that's the reason I wrote the book too, and it was I think it was very healthy for me too, because just writing the hard things down, I think it helps, because, sometimes you get really closed up and you get, that mind goes into that health, what do you call it? The health where you just it's there, but you just close down. You don't want to think about it or anything. But
Right.
just writing the book and that, the time has gone by and it's life, but you have to, when one door closes, you can't just give up living. You got to there's one path, the wrong path and the right path. You take the right path and you just have to start off. And sure enough, at times too, that door's going to close and you have to start off again. And that's life, because, we all go through hardships in life. But I think the secret is not to give up. It's just they're still out there. It's just we go through hard times.
Yeah, it was probably one of my favorite episodes of Dark Side of the Ring. They're getting ready for season 4. I don't know what they're going to delve into, but
there's plenty left in the world of wrestling to cover.
But to start it off with something like a Bruiser Brody, that's completely after that's just a tribute to what his legacy is in the business. So
that they knew if they could do one to make the pilot, they had to make it Brody. That was the right choice.
No, they made the right choice, and now, like you said, they're getting ready for the 4th season. So it works. So that's why I think they have this with me, because they thank me, because that's what kind of put their career out there, because everybody loved that episode.
I adored it, and I just want to take the opportunity to thank you for coming on the podcast. I'm not trying to queue up
we're getting near the close, so yeah, you're good.
I just wanted to say thank you for taking time to talk with us, Barbara. It's a pleasure to meet for somebody like me who's only now trying to figure out how to get into the wrestling business. It's an honor to at least meet somebody as accomplished as yourself. I know your husband, everything he's done for the wrestling business, but you yourself as a Cauliflower Alley Club member, it's humbling for somebody like me. So thank you for the time, I guess.
I know, because I do like going to these conventions and meeting the fans. Like I said, it makes me feel good. And I always in fact, before I go, I usually will put something on my Facebook page. If anyone wants to send me a message on Facebook, I'll put on who's going to be at whatever event, because I like to approach people and call them by their name, because I know it makes them feel good, that they feel like they're somebody. And that's important, because it doesn't take much to make people feel good. Just a nice word or a nice smile, or, holding the door open, or just simple little things that to do during a day it doesn't take much to hopefully make somebody's life feel better. And I think that's what life should be all about, is to, try to do that in life, because life is hard. Like I just said before, I don't repeat myself, but, sometimes just a smile, you just smile at somebody, because we all have our hard days too.
Yes, that is true. Well, Barbara, it has been like Alpha said, it's been an absolutely honor to interview you and talk about the life of your late husband, and look forward to seeing you here in the St. Louis area on Saturday, May the 13th at Aviator Hotel. All the fans we know will come out and see you then. Do you have any like social medias that you want to shout out to everybody, or that?
Yeah, you do know about this figure, don't you? That's coming out.
Oh, we got a Brody figure coming out.
Yeah, that's Powtown Wrestling. Where wrestling lives. It's that's his figure, which is a really good figure. I think they've opened up right now. It's just been like a Kickstarter.
Oh, okay.
So they've just done, and they've got him. They've got Stan Hansen, Stan Hansen is one of the ones that have kept in touch with me too, because Stan and Frank were very big and especially Japan and over here and that. So
I believe Stan Hansen is actually on the list of people to be at the Fan Fest. So
he is. There's Stan. There's even
gosh, I gotta go to one of these things. I don't have money.
Bushwhacker Luke, who's another friend, Greg Gagne. I mean, and even John Nord. I mean, these are all people. See, I've known some of these people, like JJ, for 40 plus years. I met them in Australia. So I have known them for, well, now it's 40 plus years, from 77. Yeah, whoa, time just has a way of going by. So it's really nice that I've reconnected with a lot of people that I met back then. And with JJ, I've become friends with his daughter, Pam. And between, Darla, me, and Pam, it's just a really nice, connection in the wrestling business.
Yes.
So,
yeah. Well, we look forward to seeing you, and we hope that you're not a stranger, and we hope to have you back on again sometime, talk again about and maybe when the figures come out, we can talk to you more about the career of Bruiser Brody, because I think everyone enjoyed the conversation. So, Barbara, I hope that you have a good evening, and we will talk to you again soon on the Wrestle Talk podcast.
Oh, are you two going to St. Louis? You're going to go to St. Louis?
I am in St. Louis, so I'm not quite.
Okay.
I am in. Alpha is in Florida.
Yeah, I'm a ways away from St. Louis.
So whereabouts are you in Florida?
I'm in I'm in Lady Lake right now. I forgot. So we're kind of.
I'm just outside Daytona Beach, so you're not that far away.
Oh my gosh, it'd be fun to meet you.
Yeah, ever come over this way? We're just getting ready to have our bike weeks. Have you ever come over this way? Message me.
I'd love it. That'd be perfect.
Barbara, like I said, it was great to it was great to talk to you. We hope to see you again real soon, and we hope to see you on Saturday, May the 13th at the Aviator Hotel in South St. Louis, Missouri. So thanks, Barbara. Have a good evening, and we'll talk to you soon.
You definitely will. Thank you for having me. Have a good night.
You too. Mm-hmm.
Bye. Oh my god. your Japan fandom is showing. So it should be, dude. I love that. Oh my gosh. I met Barbara Goodish. Like, I can talk about this.
and she told you to message her if you're close to her. So
right? Like, are you kidding me? I'm just like, okay. Like, I'm just about to leave work. No, I'm just kidding.
It's like I'm a giddy schoolgirl. So
right.
All right. Well, we got one more thing to take care of tonight. It's going to be the Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge, which it's going to be between. I think it's going to be between me and you. So I am going to bring on our other co-host who was on earlier, Luke. Oh,
it's Luke Roberts. Oh my god,
he's got the Brody book.
Make sure to buy a copy. Make sure to get a piece of wrestling history.
Where do I find this? Here,
all your great outlets when it comes to buying print media.
Luke, do you know where Alpha can go to buy this book?
I know. I think you can go to High Spots. You can go to Amazon.com. I mean, you name it, you can buy it. It's a great read. And I'm going to tell you right now, guys, if you haven't bought a ticket for the SICW Fan Fest, you need to make sure you buy it. We need to get Alpha up here from Florida for the Fan Fest.
Dude, that'd be ecstatic. I would just bring my camera. We could make like a little road trip video.
He'd have a smile on his face the entire time. So
he'd have a smile on his face all night.
I got to, man. What do I got to be upset about? I'm on a podcast with my bros. We're wrapping it up for the night.
So, well, we got one more thing to do tonight. We got the Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge, and Luke has graciously decided to come on and be our host for it. So let me find the music here somewhere, and up there it is.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's installment of the world-famous Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge. Tonight's contest is scheduled for the best 2 out of 3 falls between the Wrestle Talk Podcast Zone, Big Sexy Chris Rodell, and the Alpha. Now, gentlemen, in a few moments, I'm going to give you a category. You know the rules. You know how the game is played. First person to answer 2 of 3 questions correct will win tonight's Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge.
Okay. You broke up just a little bit.
Now, at this point, in honor of tonight's guest and talking about spouses in the wrestling industry, tonight's category is simply titled, I Do. I will give you one of the 2 spouses that's involved in the world of professional wrestling. You give me the other.
Okay.
All righty, gentlemen, here we go. Question number 1. This person's husband is Tyson Kidd.
Natalia.
That is correct. Chris Rodell is up 1-0.
Crud.
Question number 2. Hopefully Alpha can get this to go to a deciding third fall. Booker T.
Charnel?
Yeah.
That is correct. It's 1 fall apiece.
How did I know that?
Making the comeback.
That name was on the tip of my tongue, too. I couldn't remember it.
Question number 3. The final fall. Chelsea Green.
Zack Ryder or Matt Cardona.
Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of tonight's Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge by a score of 2-1. It is.
I should have known that. I'm a mark for Cardona.
Well, you got to admit, right now, we're going to play the intro music for the one who did know the answer. So, Big Sexy, hit the music as the winner of tonight's Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge. All right. Well, gentlemen, I'm going to tell you right now, tonight was a great episode here on the Wrestle Talk Podcast. I mean, again, that's one of those things that makes the Wrestle Talk Podcast go each and every week is the great guests, the great viewers, and the great sponsors. I mean, again, it was a great night all the way around. Again, got a lot of great commentary here as we look at the world of professional wrestling. And again, we can thank the great sponsors, Royal Mills Transportation, home of the CEO himself, Dewan Mills, Rathbun Engraving, where you can pick up one of those great Wrestle Talk Podcast mugs. You can get one for $20 from any of the Wrestle Talk Podcast members. Nobleman's Barber Lounge in Kansas City, Kincaid Arcade at the Oak Park Mall, our good friends over at Interstate 70 Sports Media, Little Popeye Designs, where you can pick up one of those great Wrestle Talk Podcast tumblers, and of course the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group. All the great sponsors here of the Wrestle Talk Podcast. And I'm going to tell you guys, I had an opportunity tonight to sit back and enjoy the Wrestle Talk Podcast like I do each and every week. And I got to tell you, if you thought the last 2 weeks were good, you got to get ready because we've got more names coming. We got more great guests still to be here. And guys, I got to say, another great episode. Episode 430 of the Wrestle Talk Podcast is pretty much in the books. Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
It was a great night. I had fun with Alpha. We talked through some good wrestling.
It was nice.
And Barbara was an awesome guest, and Herb popping on was great. It was a good night. The night went by fast.
Well, you know, guys, I'm going to tell you right now as it stands. I mean, again, this is episode 430, and we've got a lot more guests here. Matter of fact, if you have any ideas, any possible guests that you'd like to see here on the Wrestle Talk Podcast, make it a point to share those with us. Make sure to join the brand new Wrestle Talk Podcast Facebook account. It's available right now on your social media outlets, so make it a point to like us on Facebook. Make sure you join us as a Facebook friend. Also, ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, if you enjoyed the FWWC segment earlier on this evening, you can catch them on Thursday evenings at 7:30 right here on WrestleTalkPodcast.com and on all great social media outlets. And also, gentlemen, I'm going to tell you right now, we got a lot of great pro wrestling still to come. As I said at the top of the broadcast, we're a month away from WrestleMania. If you can believe that, there's still a lot of matches to be announced. There's Hall of Famers to be announced. We haven't even heard an official Hall of Fame announcement yet.
I'm surprised by that, but
like I said, it's going to be one of those. I have a funny feeling we're going to hear that every episode of Raw, SmackDown, NXT until we get all the way to WrestleMania. And guys, I'm going to tell you, not only do you have that, you have all the great experiences that are going to go on WrestleMania weekend. Another one that we didn't bother to talk about tonight was Super Card of Honor, which will be taking place the night before WrestleMania Night 1. And from what I've heard, the only matchup right now is a defense of the ROH Women's Championship. The only match that's confirmed at this point. But I keep hearing rumblings that Claudio Castagnoli will be defending that ROH World Championship. The rumors I keep hearing is Claudio Castagnoli versus Mark Briscoe for the ROH World title. And I'm going to tell you right now, it'll be a great night of professional wrestling, just like it's a great night here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. Guys, I can't say anymore. It's a great night.
I think we're good to go. We will see. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for the Wrestle Talk podcast. We will see you here next week, same time, same channel, for the Alpha, for the one and only Luke Roberts. My name is Chris Rodell, the Road Dog. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight, and we will see you next week on the Wrestle Talk podcast.